Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wassalatu wassalam ala Rasulillah wa ala alayhi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum. Kayfa halik? Let's say Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah, we have one more day to worship Allah, one more day to seek His forgiveness and ask for His blessings and stay up till midnight. Say Alhamdulillah. Tonight we're talking about radicalization and the effects on the Muslim community. My talk is going to talk about the legal ramifications of living in the United States and how it affects people who become radicalized. I have been working with an organization that protects Muslims' rights in court since 2001, the Muslim Legal Fund. We have seen dozens of cases all over the United States where the government is reacting to what they consider to be radical Islam. And you and your family and your children need to understand how the government looks at what you do. Here in America, we're a nation of laws. Everything is based on a legal principle. When it comes to radical Islam, your definition of being radical may be radically different than what the government's definition of a radical is. And you need to understand how that affects you. After 9/11, the government passed a law referred to as the Patriot Act. Inside the Patriot Act is a statute that is referred to as the Material Support Statute. The Material Support Statute reads that it is against the law for any U.S. citizen or any resident who lives within the United States to provide material support to a designated terrorist or a terrorist organization. So this will, if you provide material support, you go to jail. What the definition of material support is somewhat obvious and somewhat not obvious. Most people would think immediately that material support equals giving money to a terrorist. That is illegal. Most people would think if you provide weapons or munitions or anything that can harm others to a terrorist or a terrorist organization, that would be illegal. It is. Most people would understand that if you joined a terrorist organization, if you yourself, your personnel was involved, if you recruited others to join, that would be considered material support, and it is. But what you may not know is the definition does not end with what are obvious examples. The definition of material support also includes that you cannot provide any resources, any logistics, anything that can be considered a benefit to a terrorist or a terrorist organization. Who decides what a benefit is the Department of Justice. A Supreme Court case called the Humanitarian Law Project, led by David Cole, a constitutional scholar at Georgetown University, sued the federal government for the definition of material support. There were many charities, nonprofits, international organizations, Muslim and non-Muslims, who joined this suit, saying we need to know exactly what is material support. Where does it start? Where does it end? The lawsuit went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court rendered a decision saying we can't put it all in words. We can't put it all in definition. We can't write about every example. What we have to do is to allow the U.S. Department of Justice to use its discretion. And if the Department of Justice thinks whatever it sees fits the definition of material support they're allowed to indict you. They can charge you with a crime. It does not mean you're guilty, but they can take you to court. And they can argue to a jury why they think whatever it is equals material support to a designated organization. Now, the reason I'm telling you this in so much detail is because this is the law that the government is using in every case that involves radical Muslims. This is where the legality meets the road. We have an investigative journalist, a man named Trevor Aronson, who has been awarded many awards for his scholarship in investigative journalism. Trevor Aronson wanted to know how the government was prosecuting the war on terror, how they were coming up with the convictions and what people were doing that were illegal. He investigated all the cases you've heard about on TV, every case that was sensationalized, every case where somebody was, planning something to harm the United States. And when he conducted his research, after he was done, he wrote a book. The name of his book is called The Terror Factory: The FBI's Manufactured War on Terrorism. What did he mean? He said that what he found is that our government, in order to keep us safe, is hiring, paying for agents to go out into the community and to be the eyes and ears of the government to see if anything potentially harmful will happen. So these agents go to our communities, any community, to keep us safe. But in reality, he said, when they get to the masjid, when they get to the community, they don't find radical Muslims. And when they don't find radical Muslims, they switch gears and become the radical Muslim. So the agent, him or herself, will become a radicalized conversationalist, and that they will start to talk to people about how Muslims are not doing enough, are not caring enough, aren't doing what they should be doing. Everybody else is in a cocoon, and your religion says you should do something. So they start to press people to change their behavior and become more radical. And they may spend a day, a week or two, a month or two, a year or two, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, doesn't matter the timeline, until whatever they're saying becomes something that others, minority, 1, 2, 3 people, think might be a good idea. And as they talk about it, and as they discuss it, and they start to think about what they can do to make a difference, and they might go join this, or they may go do that, or they may provide some kind of support, and they may try to fulfill what they feel is almost a religious obligation, they get arrested, and they go to jail. And they get prosecuted for a conspiracy to provide material support. Now, the reason I tell you this is that while we believe that radical Islam and what we see is wrong, we've heard speech after speech after speech, about how we should deal with radical Islam. Well, we need to educate ourselves, right? Joining ISIS and joining causes that have been determined by the U.S. government to be terrorist or designated organizations have consequences. Whether you agree with them or not, whether you like them or not, whether you think they're Islamic or not, is irrelevant if you want to live in this country. So my part today was to inform you that the government uses what's called the Material Support Statute to take legal, lawful behavior and twist it into criminal conduct. Sami El-Arian, a famous case, one of the first cases that came out. He was an advocate for Palestine, an advocate for the Muslim community, an educated scholar, almost MIT quality as far as his thinking and his expressions, was prosecuted under this statute. And he was prosecuted for the books that he read, the the internet sites he visited, the words he spoke about other people's causes, not his cause, just told people about their position, he got prosecuted. We've had people who have interpreted what others say. Ali Tamimi, an imam, did not ever leave his office. He was a good imam, but he was very in touch with what was going on overseas. People would say things, people would write things, organizations, terrorists designated would publish things. All he did was say, this is what they're saying. He translated it into English. He got prosecuted. People have been prosecuted for feeding. Yeah, I have to go. Anyway, you get the point. My point today is that we live in a nation of laws. Regardless of our emotional response to that, we have to be aware of how it affects us and our families. So thank you, and assalamu alaikum. I need to make an announcement. For all of you present here, the Muslim Legal Fund has brought in many attorneys to this conference. They are here all day tomorrow for you to go visit them and have Q&A with an attorney in private. So if you have immigration, civil, criminal, family law, any question you want to ask an attorney, come to the Muslim Legal Fund Legal Clinic at room 426A between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. tomorrow and ask whatever you want in private with attorneys. That service is provided to every attendee at the conference this year. So, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.